So, you think you can argue. Let's talk about claims and arguments. What is an argument? It's simply persuasive writing, right? Wrong! Persuasive writing is based on emotional appeal and the credibility of the writer. Argumentative writing is based on logic and reasoning. Today's learning objectives: to recognize the elements of an argument, to recognize types of arguments, to evaluate arguments, and to recognize errors in logical reasoning. Claims and arguments. An argument presents logical reasons and evidence to support a viewpoint. An argument is a claim that someone believes should or should not be true. For example, kids should be in school Monday through Saturday. That's an argument or a claim that someone believes should or should not be true, so it's debatable. A claim by itself is not enough. You have to convince people why your claim is true. You achieve this goal by using warrants and backing. You have to have backup in your argument. A main argument or a claim all by itself is not very strong. Warrants explain how the evidence supports the claim. Backing supports the warrants. So say the claim is that kids should not have to go to school on Saturdays. Warrants. Most working parents have weekends off and students need to be with their families. That's information that supports our claim. The backing that supports the warrant: students spend 36 hours a week at school. So in this case, we're using a fact to support our supporting evidence that backs up our claim. Students spend 12 hours a week with their parents. More backing to support our warrant, which supports our claim. Another warrant: some students have jobs. To support that statement, some backing might be 86% of 11th and 12th graders work on weekends. Another warrant: students need time for other activities. Some backing to support that warrant: only 12% of students are involved in extracurricular activities. On average, students spend 22 hours a week on extracurricular activities. So you can see how the backing supports a statement that we've made that goes back to supporting our claim. Kids should not have to go to school on Saturdays. Why not? Because most working parents have weekends off and students need to spend time with their families. Because some students have jobs. Because students need time for other activities. Now that warrant, all of those warrants help support the claim, but the backing provides us with facts or statistics that really support the warrants that also support the claim. So it really holds everything together. Arguments should also include rebuttals or reasons why the counter-arguments are wrong. Kids should not have to go to school on Saturdays. So you can think of it this way. It helps you to visually understand. We have the claim, and everything leads to the claim. The evidence, the qualification, the rebuttals. From the evidence, we have our warrants. We have our backing to support the warrants. All of that goes to support the claim. You can think about it this way. So you're going to have your claim, whatever that is, all of the warrants that support your claim, all of the backing to support the warrants that hold together your claim. You also have to address the counterclaim or the rebuttal, whatever it is that the opposing viewpoint might be. That's also going to have its own set of warrants and you need to be able to refute that with a rebuttal. So why is this information not strong enough to hold on to this counterclaim? You put what you believe plus what the opposition believes, your support plus your rebuttals against the counterclaim, put all of that together, you synthesize that information, and that's how you truly develop your argument. Let's look at it this way. So making a claim. Think about how a teenage driver might convince his or her parents to loan him or her the family car. Some tactics might include present examples of trustworthiness from the past, instill feelings of guilt, whine, present statistics on teen driving to demonstrate a sense of responsibility. So let's organize the information. Evidence is information that supports a claim or a counterclaim. It could be examples, it could be facts, it could be figures. So if your claim is, I should be allowed to drive the car, the counterclaim obviously would be, I probably should not be allowed to drive the car. Let's look at the claim first. So to warrant the warrants that support the claim, I passed the driving test the first time. That shows that I know the rules. The driving record can support that fact or that statement. I have never gotten a ticket. The backing, your driving record, can support that warrant. It shows that you follow the rules. I have not lost my cell phone, wallet, or debit card. This shows that you're responsible, and personal communication is going to be the backing that supports your warrant, which holds your claim together. Now, you have to address the reasons why you probably should not be allowed to drive the car. One reason might be that traffic accidents are a leading cause of death for teenagers because they don't pay attention as well. You can refute that by creating a rebuttal using the NHTSA. So find facts or statistics to use to refute that particular warrant. Another reason why you might not be allowed to drive the car is that you don't have any previous experience with being responsible for something this potentially dangerous or expensive. Again, use your personal communication as showing equal value as to why you should be allowed to drive the car. You have to make sure you're refuting that counterclaim. Synthesize that information, and you'll be able to develop your concluding statement. Here it is. The concluding statement will clarify relationships between claim and reasons, reasons and evidence, and claim and counterclaim. So whatever your claim is, of course, to have 2 or 3 warrants with backing will support your claim. The synthesis is pointing out strengths and limitations of both the claim and the counterclaim. You want to show the strengths of your claim and the limitations or the weaknesses of the counterclaim. So let's talk about a concluding statement. I should be allowed to drive the family car as I have demonstrated responsibility, fulfilled the legal requirements, and have maintained control of my driving. Even though it is true that traffic accidents are a leading killer of teenagers, it is obvious, since not all teenagers have accidents, that there are safe teenage drivers. In previous circumstances, when I have been given the opportunity to be responsible, I have demonstrated this attribute, so a lack of experience is not a strong counterclaim. Parts of an argument. The issue is the problem or controversy about which people disagree. The claim will be the position on the issue. The support are the reasons and evidence that the claim is reasonable and should be accepted. The refutation or the rebuttal is the opposing viewpoints. Strategies for evaluating arguments. Evaluate types of evidence. Is it sufficient to support the claim? Personal experience. May be biased, so do not accept it. Examples should not be used by themselves. Strategies for evaluating arguments. Statistics can be misused, manipulated, or misinterpreted. Comparisons and analogies. Reliability depends on how closely they correspond to the situation. Relevancy and sufficiency of evidence. Is there enough of the right kind of to support the claim? Strategies for evaluating arguments. Definition of terms. Should be carefully defined and used consistently. Cause-effect relationships. Evidence that the relationship exists should be present. Implied or stated value system. Are they consistent with your personal value system? Errors in logical reasoning, commonly called logical fallacies, invalidate the argument or render argument flawed. Circular reasoning, begging the question. Female police officers should not be sent to crime scenes because apprehending criminals is a man's job. So this idea of going around in a circle, it makes it look like one thing supports itself, but the whole thing really is false. Look at hasty generalization. Conclusion derived from insufficient evidence. Because one apple is sour, all of them in the bowl must be sour. You don't want to make a generalization based on insufficient evidence. Errors in logical reasoning. Non sequitur. It does not follow. Because my doctor is young, I'm sure she'll be a good doctor. False cause. Because I opened the umbrella when I tripped on the sidewalk, the umbrella must have caused me to trip. You don't want to look at an effect as being caused by something that doesn't make sense. It's irrational. Either or fallacy. Because of the violence, TV must either be allowed or banned. Again, this idea of either one thing has to happen or the other thing has to happen. For each argument, identify the claim, outline the reasons to support the claim. What types of evidence are used? Evaluate the adequacy and sufficiency of the evidence. What emotional appeals are used? Does the author recognize or refute counterclaims? Let's look at an example. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this passage. As you read, pay attention to how the author uses evidence to back up the argument in the passage and try to identify any irrelevant evidence. The Beatles are the most successful recording artists of all time. By some estimates, they have sold over 1 billion albums, and no other artist has been awarded more gold or platinum records. They have more #1 singles than any artist in recording history. On top of that, they are my brother's favorite band, and he really knows what he's talking about because he plays the piano. So, let's evaluate the argument. Here's the claim. The Beatles are the most successful artists of all time. Some relevant evidence or essential information. 1 billion albums were sold. Most were gold and platinum records. Most were #1 singles. Some irrelevant or non-essential information in the argument. They are my brother's favorite band. My brother plays the piano. Let's talk about types of claims. The claim of fact. Statement that can be proven or verified by observation or research. Within 10 years, destruction of rainforests will cause hundreds of plant and animal species to become extinct. Claim of value. States that one thing or idea is better or more desirable than another. Requiring community service in high school will produce more community-aware graduates. Claim of policy. Suggests what should or ought to be done to solve a problem. To reduce school violence, more gun and metal detectors should be installed in public schools. Types of support. The reason, a general statement that supports a claim. Evidence consists of facts, statistics, experiences, comparisons, and examples that show why the claim is valid. Emotional appeals. Ideas that are targeted toward needs or values that readers are likely to care about. Inductive and deductive arguments. Inductive. Reaches a general conclusion from observed specifics. By observing the performance of a large number of athletes, you could conclude that athletes possess physical stamina. So, you're kind of like a detective in this way. When you're using inductive reasoning, you get a whole bunch of clues or like little clues or little ideas, and then you reach a general conclusion based on the little bits of evidence that you found out. So if you're watching a bunch of individual athletes, then you might make this general conclusion that to be an athlete, this is how you should act, or this is a behavior that would be consistent with the type of athlete. Deductive reasoning begins with a major premise and moves toward a more specific statement or minor premise. Athletes possess physical stamina. Because Anthony is an athlete, he must possess physical stamina. So in this way, you're looking at like the big picture. So think of like a crime show or something like that where, you know, you see the big picture and your job is to figure out who done it. Like who was the murderer, what was the murder weapon, all of the little bits of information, you have to piece that together from the big picture idea. Strategies for reading an argument. Think before you read. What does the title suggest? Preview it. Who is the author and what are his or her qualifications? What is the date of publication? What do I already know about this issue? Read actively. Read once for an initial impression. Read the argument several more times. Annotate as you read. Highlight key terms, diagram or map to analyze structure. Remember CER, claim, evidence, reasoning. Claim, state an opinion about a specific topic. Evidence, describe the details directly from the text. Reasoning, provide a logical explanation for how the evidence supports the claim. Do you have any questions? Facts can be verified, opinions cannot be verified. Claims, the position an author or speaker takes on a controversial issue. Arguments, present logical reasons and evidence to support a viewpoint.